Imagine this. You're standing at the very edge of time, before cities, before borders, before even the first word was ever spoken. There's only silence, and light, and earth waiting to be touched. Now picture a man, the first man, Adam. His eyes open for the very first time. He sees colors he has no names for. He feels warmth on his skin, but doesn't know it's called sunshine. Everything is new. Everything is a discovery. He's alone in a garden so perfect, it will never exist again. Every fruit tastes like a miracle. Every stream runs crystal clear. And for a moment, just a moment, he is completely, utterly at peace. But this story isn't just about paradise. It's about what comes after. The choice, the fall, the exile. It's about a man who lives for nearly 1,000 years and watches the world change in ways he could never imagine. Adam sees his children grow. He sees them fight. He sees the first murder, the first grief, the first time a human heart truly breaks. He becomes a legend while he's still alive. People come from distant lands just to hear him speak, to touch his hand, to ask him what it was really like in the beginning. And when he's old, ancient beyond measure, he gathers his family close. He tells them secrets, things he saw, things he learned, a final message for all of humanity. This is that story, the human story, the first story. Let it wash over you, let it carry you, and if you drift away, that's okay. The story will still be there, soft and steady, like a heartbeat in the darkness.
Thank you, Seth.
Chapter 1. The First Man's First Breath.
Peace be upon you, good
Imagine opening your eyes for the very first time. Not waking up from sleep because you've never slept before. Not being born because you've never been in a womb. Just suddenly existing, suddenly being aware, suddenly alive. That's what happened to Adam. One moment there was nothing. The next moment there was everything. There was sight. There was sound. There was the feeling of air filling lungs that had never breathed before. There was the sensation of a heart beating for the very first time. Adam's eyes opened. The first thing he saw was light. Warm, golden light streaming down from above. It wasn't harsh. It didn't hurt. It was gentle and welcoming, like the light was happy to see him. He blinked. Then he blinked again. He didn't know what blinking was, but his body knew how to do it anyway. His chest moved up and down. Air flowed in. Air flowed out. He was breathing. Adam lifted his hand and looked at it. He turned it over, watching his fingers move. Each finger obeyed his thoughts. He opened his hand. He closed his hand. He touched his face and felt the strange new sensation of touch, both touching and being touched at the same time. He was lying on soft ground, grass. Not that he knew the word grass yet. He just knew it felt pleasant against his skin. He sat up slowly, looking around. Colors. So many colors. Green grass stretched out in every direction. Trees with leaves of deep emerald and jade. Flowers blooming in reds and yellows and purples that seemed to glow from within. The sky above was a blue so deep and pure that it seemed to go on forever. And there, right in front of him, was a figure made of light. Not exactly light, but something similar. Something that made the sunlight look dim by comparison. A presence that filled Adam with an overwhelming sense of safety and joy. Adam didn't know many things yet. He didn't know what words were. He didn't know what names were. He didn't know what time was, or what death was, or what loneliness was. But somehow, looking at this glowing presence, he knew exactly what love was. The presence spoke. The words didn't come through ears exactly. They came from everywhere and nowhere, gentle but clear, like they were spoken directly into Adam's heart. "Welcome," the voice said. "You are Adam. You are human. You are mine, and I am yours. This is your home." Adam tried to speak. His mouth opened. Sound came out, but it wasn't words yet. He didn't know how to form words, but the presence seemed to understand anyway. "Come," the voice said. "Let me show you everything." Adam stood up. His legs wobbled at first, but then steadied. He took a step, then another. Walking felt natural, as if his body had always known how, even though this was the very first time. Together, Adam and the presence walked through the garden. And what a garden it was! This wasn't like any garden you've ever seen. This was the Garden of Eden, a place so beautiful that every description falls short. The grass beneath Adam's feet was softer than any carpet. The air smelled sweet, like a combination of every good smell that has ever existed. Honey and flowers and fresh rain and warm bread all mixed together. Birds flew overhead, singing songs that made Adam's heart feel light. He didn't know what music was yet, but he knew he liked these sounds. Small animals scurried through the bushes, not afraid, just curious about this new tall creature walking through their home. Adam saw a stream of clear water flowing over smooth stones. Without thinking, he knelt down and cupped his hands, bringing the water to his lips. The moment it touched his tongue, his eyes widened. It was cool and clean and refreshing in a way that made every cell in his body feel alive. "Everything here is for you," the presence said. "Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you taste. This is your home, Adam. You are the caretaker of this garden. You are the keeper of this beauty." Adam looked around with new understanding. This wasn't just a place. This was his place, his responsibility, his gift. The presence led him deeper into the garden, to a spot where the trees grew thicker and taller. In the very center, 2 trees stood apart from all the others. They weren't just trees. They seemed to hum with power, with importance, with meaning. "These are special," the presence said, and for the first time, there was something serious in the voice. "This tree," the voice indicated the first one, "is the tree of life. Its fruit will keep you young and strong forever. You may eat from it whenever you wish." Adam looked at the tree. It was beautiful beyond words, with silver bark that seemed to shimmer and fruit that glowed softly like captured moonlight. "And this tree," the voice continued, indicating the second tree, "is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You must not eat from this tree, Adam. Not now, not yet. Perhaps someday, when the time is right, but not now. Do you understand?" Adam looked at the second tree. It was just as beautiful as the first, but different. Its fruit seemed to pulse with a kind of energy that made him feel both drawn to it and wary of it at the same time. He nodded. He understood, or at least, he thought he did. Before we continue with what happens next, I want you to pause and think about something. Have you ever wondered why that rule existed? Why would there be a tree in the garden that Adam couldn't eat from? Some people say it was a test. Others say it was a gift, a way to give Adam real choice, real freedom. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing different perspectives on these ancient mysteries. And if you're enjoying this journey back to the very beginning of human history, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're going to explore so many more untold stories from ancient times, and you won't want to miss them. Now, back to Adam in the garden. The days that followed were unlike anything that would ever exist again. Adam spent his time exploring every corner of Eden. Each day brought new discoveries. He found fruit trees heavy with ripe fruit in colors he couldn't name. He found pools of water so clear he could see straight to the bottom. He found caves and hills and meadows full of flowers. And the animals. Oh, the animals. They came to him without fear. Deer would eat from his hand. Birds would land on his shoulder. Even the great cats, the lions and tigers that in later years would be feared, would lie down beside him like gentle house cats, purring when he scratched behind their ears. The presence gave Adam a special task. "I want you to name them," the voice said. "Every creature needs a name, and you will choose what they are called." So Adam did. He watched each animal carefully, learning its habits, its personality, its nature. Then he would speak a name, and the name would fit perfectly. The tall creature with the long neck became the giraffe. The one with black and white stripes became the zebra. The tiny creature that buzzed from flower to flower became the bee. It took time, but Adam had plenty of time. There was no rush in Eden, no deadlines, no hurry. Just peaceful days flowing one into another like a gentle stream. But as Adam named the animals, he began to notice something. The animals came in pairs. There were male deer and female deer, male birds and female birds, male lions and female lions. They had companions. They had partners. They had others like themselves. Adam had no one. For the first time since opening his eyes, Adam felt something uncomfortable, a kind of emptiness, a longing for something he didn't have words for yet. He was alone. And in that ancient garden, on that perfect day, the very first human being experienced the very first loneliness. The presence noticed. Of course the presence noticed. The voice spoke again, and this time it was filled with warmth and something that almost sounded like excitement. "It is not good for you to be alone," the voice said. "I will make someone for you, someone like you, but different, someone to share this garden with, someone to share your life with." Adam felt a wave of tiredness wash over him. His eyes grew heavy. For the first time since existing, he felt the pull of sleep. He lay down in the soft grass, and his eyes closed. Sleep was new. Sleep was strange. But sleep was also wonderful. In sleep, Adam's mind filled with images and feelings he couldn't quite grasp. Dreams, though he didn't know to call them that yet. When he woke up, something had changed. He could feel it before he even opened his eyes. There was a presence nearby. Not the glowing presence of his creator, but something else. Something that made his heart beat faster. Adam opened his eyes, and there she was, standing in the golden afternoon light, looking at him with curious eyes, was another human being. Someone like him, but different in the most wonderful way. She had the same kind of hands, the same kind of face, the same kind of eyes. But everything about her was softer somehow, gentler, more graceful. She smiled at him, and Adam smiled back. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other, two human beings seeing another human being for the very first time in all of existence. Then Adam found words. They came from somewhere deep inside him, words he didn't know he knew how to say. "You are bone of my bones," he said softly. You are flesh of my flesh. You will be called woman, because you were taken from man." She stepped closer. She reached out her hand. Adam reached out his. Their fingers touched. And just like that, Adam wasn't alone anymore. The loneliness that had begun to grow in his chest vanished like morning dew in the sunshine. Here was someone to talk to, someone to walk with, someone to share the wonders of the garden with, someone to share his life with. They would later call her Eve, which means mother of all living. But in that moment, she was simply woman, and he was simply man, and they were together in a perfect garden under a perfect sky, at the very beginning of the human story. What neither of them knew, standing there in that golden light, holding hands for the very first time, was that their choices would change everything. Not just for them, but for every human being who would ever be born. But we'll get to that part of the story soon. For now, just imagine the joy of that moment. The pure, simple happiness of two people meeting for the very first time, with no past to regret and a future full of endless possibilities. If you're listening to this as you drift off to sleep, let that image fill your mind. A perfect garden, two people, happiness, peace. The world at its very beginning, before pain, before sorrow, before loss, just beauty and joy and love. Rest in that image for a while. We'll continue the story in just a moment. Chapter 2. Life in the perfect garden. Time moved differently in Eden. There were days and nights, yes. The sun rose and set. The moon climbed into the sky and painted everything in silver light. But time didn't press forward with urgency like it does now. Each day was full and complete in itself. There was no counting of days, no marking of weeks or months or years. There was simply now, and now was always good. Adam and Eve lived in the garden like children live in summer vacation, when the days seem endless and every moment is full of discovery. They would wake with the sunrise, though they never felt tired, even if they stayed up late. Sleep was a gift they enjoyed, not a necessity their bodies demanded. Their mornings often began at the stream. The water was always the perfect temperature, cool enough to be refreshing, but warm enough to be comfortable. They would splash each other and laugh. Eve's laugh was like music to Adam's ears. It was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard, and he would do silly things just to hear it. They would eat breakfast from the trees, figs so sweet they tasted like honey, apples that were crisp and juicy, pomegranates with seeds that burst on your tongue, dates that melted in your mouth, every kind of fruit you can imagine, and many kinds that don't exist anymore. All of it ripe, all of it perfect, all of it free. After breakfast, they would walk. The garden was enormous, much bigger than you might think. It would take days to walk from one end to the other. And there were always new paths to explore, new clearings to discover, new wonders to find. One day, Adam showed Eve a waterfall he had found. The water fell from high rocks into a deep pool below, creating a constant gentle roar and throwing up a mist that made rainbows in the air. They spent the whole day there, swimming in the pool, sitting behind the waterfall, feeling the spray on their faces. Another day, Eve found a meadow where thousands of butterflies gathered. They were every color imaginable: red and orange and yellow, blue and purple and green, some with patterns like flowers, others with spots like eyes. The butterflies weren't afraid. They would land on Adam and Eve's outstretched hands, opening and closing their wings slowly, "How does it feel?" Eve asked Adam one day as they sat under a great oak tree, watching the sun set in colors of pink and gold and orange. "How does what feel?" Adam asked. "Being alive," Eve said. "How does it feel to be alive?" Adam thought about this. He had never really thought about it before. Being alive was just what he was. But now, trying to put it into words, he realized what an amazing thing it was. "It feels like everything fits," he finally said. "Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like every part of me, inside and outside, is connected to everything around me. The air I breathe, the food I eat, the ground beneath my feet. It all fits together perfectly. And you," he looked at her and smiled, "you fit most perfectly of all." Eve smiled back and leaned her head on his shoulder. "I feel the same way," she said softly. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun finished setting and the stars began to appear. Stars in Eden were brighter than they ever would be again. With no cities, no lights, no pollution, the night sky was a river of light flowing across the darkness. The Milky Way stretched from horizon to horizon like a bridge made of diamonds. "Do you think it will always be like this?" Eve asked. "Why wouldn't it be?" Adam replied. Eve didn't answer. She didn't know why she had asked the question. Some small feeling deep inside her, a tiny whisper of intuition that something this perfect couldn't last forever. But she pushed the feeling away. Of course it would last forever. What could possibly change it? The presence, the Creator, would visit them often. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. Adam and Eve always knew when the presence was near because everything would become even more vivid, even more alive. Colors would brighten, sounds would become clearer, and they would feel such joy in their hearts that they thought they might burst. They would walk with the presence through the garden, talking about everything and nothing. The presence was like a father and a mother and a best friend all combined. There was nothing they couldn't talk about, no question too silly to ask, no thought too small to share. "What is beyond the garden?" Adam asked one day. "More world," the presence answered. "Mountains and deserts and oceans and forests, places wild and places gentle. It's all waiting for you." "For us?" Eve asked. "We can leave the garden." "Someday," the presence said. "When the time is right, when you're ready. For now, learn to care for what you have here. Learn to tend and protect and nurture. Then, one day, you'll be ready to care for the whole world." This excited Adam and Eve. The idea that there was more to explore, more to see, more to discover. But they were also happy to wait. Eden was enough for now. More than enough. But here's something interesting to think about. Why do you suppose there was a world beyond Eden? If the garden was perfect, why create anything else? Some scholars believe Eden was meant to be a starting point, not the final destination. A place to learn and grow before spreading out to fill the whole earth. Others think the garden was a test to see if Adam and Eve could be trusted with responsibility before being given more. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, smash that like button. It helps more people discover these ancient stories told in new ways. Now, let's talk about the animals again, because Adam and Eve's relationship with the animals was truly special. In Eden, there was no fear between humans and animals. A wolf would play with a lamb. A mouse would sleep next to a cat. Everything lived in harmony because there was no need for violence, no need for hunting. The animals ate plants and fruit just like Adam and Eve did. There was plenty for everyone. Adam and Eve had favorites among the animals. Eve loved the deer because they were gentle and graceful. There was one doe in particular, with white spots on her back, who would follow Eve around like a pet dog. Eve named her Starlight because her spots looked like stars. Adam was fascinated by the eagles. He would watch them soar on the wind currents high above the garden, circling for hours without flapping their wings. Sometimes, if he called, an eagle would swoop down and land on his outstretched arm. Adam would look into its fierce, intelligent eyes and wonder what the world looked like from so high up. They also loved the elephants. There was a family of elephants that lived near a large grove of trees at the eastern edge of the garden. The baby elephant would trumpet and play, running between Adam and Eve's legs, while the mother watched with patient eyes. Eve would collect fruit for them, and the elephants would take it gently from her hands with their trunks. But the most interesting animal in the garden was the serpent. Now, when you hear serpent, you might picture a snake slithering on the ground. But the serpent in Eden was different. It walked upright, or at least it moved in a way that wasn't quite slithering. Some ancient texts suggest it was beautiful, maybe even dazzling to look at. The serpent was clever, more clever than any other animal. It could almost talk, or at least it seemed to understand human speech better than the other creatures did. Eve found it fascinating. She would sometimes sit and watch the serpent move through the trees, graceful and mysterious. Adam was more cautious around the serpent. He couldn't say exactly why, but something about it made him uneasy. It watched them too closely. It seemed too interested in their conversations. But Eve would laugh at his concerns. "It's just an animal," she would say. "A beautiful, interesting animal." If only Adam had trusted his instinct. If only Eve had been more careful. But how could they know? They had never experienced danger before. They didn't know what betrayal was. They didn't know what deception looked like. They were innocent, and innocence is a beautiful thing, but it can also make you vulnerable. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, though Adam and Eve didn't count them. They simply lived, and life was good. They learned the rhythms of the garden. They knew which trees gave fruit in which seasons. They knew where the best swimming holes were. They knew which paths led to the most beautiful views. They also learned about each other. Adam learned that Eve was braver than he was in some ways. She would climb higher in the trees, swim deeper in the pools. Eve learned that Adam was more thoughtful, more likely to sit and ponder things while she wanted to explore and experience. But they complemented each other perfectly. Where one was weak, the other was strong. Where one hesitated, the other encouraged. They were partners in the truest sense, and their love for each other grew deeper with each passing day. At night, they would lie on the soft grass and look up at the stars. They would make up stories about the patterns in the sky. They would wonder about things they didn't understand yet. They would talk about the future, about the children they might have someday, about the adventures they would have beyond the garden when the time came. "Do you think our children will love Eden as much as we do?" Eve asked one night. "I think they'll love it even more," Adam said, because we'll teach them about every tree and every stream. We'll show them all the secret places. We'll introduce them to all the animals. They'll grow up knowing how perfect the world can be. How many children do you think we'll have? Eve asked. Adam laughed. How many do you want? All of them, Eve said dreamily. I want to have so many children that they fill the garden with laughter. And then they'll have children. And those children will have children. Until humans are everywhere, taking care of the world, making it even more beautiful. That sounds perfect, Adam said, squeezing her hand. They didn't know, lying there under the stars, making plans and dreaming dreams, that everything was about to change, that their next choice would alter the course of human history forever, that the perfection they took for granted was more fragile than they imagined. But for now, in this moment, everything was still perfect. The garden was still home. They were still innocent. They were still safe. Let that peaceful image fill your mind. A man and a woman under the stars, dreaming of the future, surrounded by beauty, filled with love, at peace with the world and with each other. Hold on to that feeling as we move into the next part of the story, because what comes next is where everything changes. Chapter 3: The Woman and the Choice. It started as just another beautiful day in Eden. Eve woke up as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves above her. Adam was still sleeping, breathing softly, peaceful. Eve smiled at him, then quietly got up and walked toward the stream to wash her face. The morning was cool and fresh. Dew covered everything, making the grass sparkle like it was covered in tiny diamonds. Birds were already singing their morning songs. Somewhere in the distance, an elephant trumpeted a greeting to the new day. Eve walked slowly, enjoying the feeling of the soft grass beneath her feet. She wasn't going anywhere in particular, just wandering, as she often did. The garden was so big that even after all this time, she could still find paths she hadn't walked before, clearings she hadn't seen. She found herself in the center of the garden, where the two special trees stood: the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She had been here many times before. Often, she and Adam would eat fruit from the tree of life. It tasted like every good thing combined, and after eating it, they would feel strong and vibrant and fully alive. But they never touched the other tree, the forbidden tree, the one rule they had to follow. Eve looked at it now as she walked past. She had to admit, it was beautiful. Its bark was smooth and dark. Its leaves were a deep green that was almost black. And its fruit, oh, its fruit looked amazing. It hung heavy on the branches, round and perfect, with skin that seemed to glow with an inner light. It looked delicious, but it was forbidden. So Eve simply looked and kept walking. That's when she heard the voice. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Eve stopped and turned around. There, coiled around a branch of the forbidden tree, was the serpent. Its eyes watched her carefully, and there was something in those eyes she hadn't seen before. Intelligence, purpose, something that almost looked like cunning. No, Eve answered, moving closer. We can eat from any tree except this one. God said if we eat from this tree, or even touch it, we will die. The serpent's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Die, it said, and Eve could swear the serpent was smiling. You won't die. God knows that when you eat from this tree, your eyes will be opened. You'll be like God, knowing both good and evil. Eve felt something stir inside her, a feeling she had never experienced before. Curiosity mixed with desire, mixed with something else. Doubt, maybe. Or was it ambition? Like God, she repeated. Like God, the serpent confirmed. Think about it. Why would God keep this from you? Why would there be one tree in the whole garden that you can't eat from? Maybe, the serpent's voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe God doesn't want you to be as powerful as God is. Eve looked at the fruit again. Now that she was really looking at it, really considering it, it seemed even more beautiful, more desirable. She imagined what it would taste like. She imagined what it would feel like to know what God knows, to understand things she didn't understand now. "What is evil?" she asked the serpent. The serpent tilted its head. "I suppose you'll find out if you eat the fruit." Eve reached out her hand. Her fingers stopped inches from the fruit. She could feel warmth radiating from it. Or was that her imagination? This is one of the most debated moments in all of human history. Why did Eve choose to disobey? Was she tricked? Was she rebellious? Was she simply curious? Some people blame the serpent entirely. Others say Eve should have known better. Some even wonder if this was somehow meant to happen, if this choice was always going to be made. What do you think? Was Eve a victim, or was she responsible for her choice? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you believe. Eve's hand closed around the fruit. It felt smooth and warm in her palm. She pulled gently, and the fruit came away from the branch easily, as if it had been waiting for her. She looked at it. Just a piece of fruit. That's all it was. How could something so simple be so dangerous? She brought it to her lips. She hesitated one more time. One more chance to stop. One more moment where everything could still be okay. Then she bit into it. The taste exploded in her mouth. It was sweet, but also bitter. Delicious, but also strange. It tasted like honey and ash at the same time. And as she swallowed, something happened inside her. It was like a veil had been torn away. Suddenly, she could see things she couldn't see before. Not physical things, but spiritual things. Concepts. Ideas. She understood what shame was. She understood what fear was. She understood what guilt was. And she realized, with a horror that made her heart sink, that she had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late. The fruit was eaten. The choice was made. The world was changed. Eve stood there, the half-eaten fruit in her hand, and for the first time in her existence, she felt bad. She felt wrong. She felt like something inside her had broken. She looked around for the serpent, but it had disappeared into the trees. She was alone with what she had done. No, she thought suddenly. She wasn't alone. Adam. She had to find Adam. Maybe if they were together, this wouldn't feel so terrible. Maybe if Adam ate the fruit too, they could face whatever came next together. She ran through the garden, the forbidden fruit still clutched in her hand. She found Adam by the stream, washing his face in the cool water. "Adam!" she called out. He turned and smiled at her. "Good morning, beautiful. Where have you—" He stopped. Something about her was different. He could see it in her eyes, a shadow that hadn't been there before. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "I ate from the tree," Eve said quietly. Adam's face went pale. "Which tree?" Eve held up the fruit. "This one." For a long moment, Adam just stared. His mind raced. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Eve had eaten the forbidden fruit. But that meant... "Are you okay?" he finally asked. "You're not dead. You're still here." "I'm not dead," Eve confirmed. "But I'm different. Something inside me is different. Adam, I can see things now. I understand things I didn't understand before. And Her voice broke. "I'm scared." Adam had never seen Eve scared before. He had never been scared before either. But looking at her now, seeing the fear in her eyes, he felt it too. Fear, creeping into his heart like cold water. "What happens now?" he asked. "I don't know," Eve said, "but I don't want to face it alone. Please, Adam, please eat it too. Whatever happens, let's face it together." This was Adam's choice. Eve had made hers. Now Adam had to make his. He could refuse. He could stay innocent. He could stay perfect. But that would mean Eve would face the consequences alone. That would mean a divide between them. That would mean he would remain in Eden while she... What? Would she be sent away? Would she die eventually? Would he lose her? Adam looked at Eve, the woman he loved, his companion, his partner, his other half. How could he let her face this alone? He took the fruit from her hand. He looked at it. He knew it was wrong. He knew he shouldn't. There was no serpent to trick him, no clever words to deceive him. He knew exactly what he was doing. But he did it anyway, for love, for loyalty, for the inability to imagine existence without her. Adam bit into the fruit, and just like Eve, his world changed. The veil tore, knowledge flooded in, good and evil, shame and pride, fear and anger, all of it rushing into his consciousness at once. He looked at Eve, and for the first time, he saw her not just as beautiful, but as exposed, vulnerable. And he realized he was vulnerable too. They were naked. They had always been naked, but it had never mattered before. Now it mattered. Now they felt shame. Without speaking, they both started grabbing leaves from nearby plants. Fig leaves, big and broad. They wove them together clumsily, making crude coverings for themselves. It didn't help much, but it was something. They sat down together, their backs against a tree, and waited. They didn't know what they were waiting for, but they knew something was coming. You can't break the one rule in paradise and expect nothing to happen. The day passed slowly. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows grew longer. And as evening approached, they heard it. Footsteps. The sound of someone walking through the garden. The presence. The Creator. Coming as always for the evening visit. But this time, instead of running to meet the presence with joy, Adam and Eve hid. They crouched behind bushes, their hearts pounding, their newly acquired shame burning in their chests. "Adam!" the voice called out. "Where are you?" Of course, the Creator knew where they were, but the question wasn't about location. It was about relationship. Where are you in your heart? Where are you in your spirit? Where are you compared to where you were this morning? Adam's voice shook as he answered. "I heard you walking, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid." There was sadness in the voice that responded. Deep sadness. "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" This was the moment to confess, the moment to take responsibility. But Adam, filled with new knowledge of how to avoid consequences, did what humans have done ever since. He blamed someone else. "The woman you gave me," Adam said. "She gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate it." The Creator turned to Eve. "What have you done?" And Eve, learning from Adam's example, passed the blame further. "The serpent deceived me," she said. That's why I ate it. 3 humans made a choice. All 3 tried to avoid responsibility, and the world would never be the same. If you're still listening, thank you for journeying with me through this pivotal moment in human history. If you're finding this story meaningful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. We're only a third of the way through Adam's story, and what comes next will amaze you. Take a deep breath, relax. Let's continue. Chapter 4. Outside the garden gates. The consequences came swiftly. First, the serpent. The Creator cursed it, condemning it to crawl on its belly and eat dust all its days. The beautiful creature that had walked upright would now be the lowest of all animals. And more than that, there would be eternal enmity between the serpent's offspring and the woman's offspring. Then came Eve's consequences. Pain in childbirth. Difficulty in the very thing she had dreamed about, having children and filling the earth with life. And a new dynamic in her relationship with Adam, one where equality would be challenged, where harmony would sometimes give way to struggle. And Adam. The ground itself would be cursed because of him. The earth that had given fruit so freely would now require toil. Thorns and thistles would grow. Food would come only through hard labor and sweat, and at the end of his life, he would return to the dust from which he was made. But there was hope hidden in the curse, a promise. The woman's offspring would one day crush the serpent's head. There would be pain, yes, but also victory, redemption, a way back. Not immediately, but someday. Still, in that moment, standing before the Creator with their pathetic fig leaf coverings and their heavy hearts, Adam and Eve felt only loss. The Creator made them better clothes, garments of animal skin. This meant an animal had to die. The first death in all of creation happened because of their sin. Blood was shed for the first time. Adam and Eve watched in horror as life left the creature's eyes. This is what death looks like, they realized. This is what we brought into the world. Then came the hardest part, the exile. You cannot stay in the garden, the Creator said, and the sadness in that voice was unbearable. If you stay, you might eat from the tree of life and live forever in this fallen state. That cannot be. You must leave. Adam and Eve gathered nothing because they owned nothing. Everything in Eden had been provided. Now they would leave with only the clothes on their backs and each other. As they walked toward the eastern gate of the garden, they kept looking back, memorizing, trying to burn every detail into their minds because they knew they would never see it again. The trees, the streams, the flowers, the animals watching them leave with confused eyes. They reached the gate. Beyond it, they could see a different kind of land. Still beautiful, but wild, untamed, challenging. The world they were supposed to conquer and care for, but now they would face it without the security of Eden behind them. They took a step forward, then another. They crossed the threshold. Behind them, something appeared. Angels, mighty beings with flaming swords that turned every direction. Cherubim, guarding the way back to the tree of life. The gate was not just closed, it was sealed, protected, unreachable. Adam and Eve walked forward into their new world. Eve was crying. Adam was not crying, but only because some new instinct told him he needed to be strong, needed to be brave, even though he felt neither strong nor brave. The first night outside of Eden was the worst night of their lives. They found a cave for shelter, The ground was hard and rocky, nothing like the soft grass they were used to. The temperature dropped as darkness came. They had never been cold before. Now they shivered and held each other close. Strange sounds came from the darkness, howls and growls and cries they didn't recognize. The animals outside Eden were different. Some were predators now, some were dangerous. Adam and Eve huddled in their cave, afraid, alone, cast out. Eve sobbed. "I'm so sorry," she said over and over. "This is my fault. I ruined everything." Adam wanted to comfort her, but he was angry. Angry at her, angry at himself, angry at the serpent, angry at the whole situation. He said nothing, which somehow made Eve feel even worse. They didn't sleep that night. They just waited for morning, wondering what their new life would be like, wondering if they could survive, wondering if they would ever feel happy again. When morning finally came, the sun looked different. Or maybe it was the same, but they were different. Everything felt harder, sharper, more harsh. Adam stood up. "We need water," he said, "and food. We need to find a way to live." So began their new life. The life of work, the life of struggle, the life that every human since has known. They found a river and drank. The water was clean but not as sweet as Eden's streams. They found fruit trees, but the fruit wasn't as abundant or as perfect. Some of it was bitter, some of it was barely ripe. They had to search and work for their food now. Adam tried to plant seeds, remembering what he knew from Eden. But the ground was hard. Rocks needed to be removed. The soil had to be broken up. His hands, which had never known pain, blistered and bled. He learned what suffering felt like. Eve gathered what she could: berries, nuts, roots. She tried to make their cave more comfortable, but it was still just a cave. Hard, cold, not home. Days turned into weeks. They learned to survive. They got better at finding food. Adam built them a better shelter. They made a fire, which frightened them at first, but then became essential for warmth and cooking. Slowly, very slowly, they adjusted. The sharp pain of loss became a dull ache. They learned to laugh again sometimes. They found moments of joy in their new life. A beautiful sunset, a successful harvest, a warm night under the stars, and they learned to forgive. Adam forgave Eve. Eve forgave herself, at least a little bit. They grew closer through the hardship. Their love, tested by consequences, became deeper, stronger. One morning, several months after leaving Eden, Eve woke up feeling strange, sick. She ran outside and vomited. Adam was concerned, but Eve suddenly knew, with an instinct that came from somewhere deep inside, what was happening. "Adam," she said, her eyes wide, "I'm pregnant." For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then, despite everything they had been through, despite the pain and the loss and the exile, they smiled. Then they laughed. Then they cried happy tears. Life, new life, a baby, their baby, the first child ever to be born in the history of the world. "We're going to be parents," Adam said, wonder in his voice. "Yes," Eve said, touching her belly gently. "We're going to have a son." "How do you know it will be a son?" Adam asked. Eve just smiled. "I know." She was right. 9 months later, with pain that was worse than anything Eve had imagined, but also mixed with a joy that transcended the pain, a baby was born. A boy, pink and screaming and absolutely perfect. Adam cut the cord with a sharp stone. Eve held the baby to her chest. The baby stopped crying and looked up at his mother with dark, curious eyes. Cain," Eve whispered. "We'll call him Cain, because I have gotten a man from the Lord." Adam looked at his wife holding their son, and he felt hope for the first time since leaving Eden. Maybe they could build something new. Maybe their mistake wasn't the end. Maybe it was just a painful beginning. What they didn't know was that their son Cain would break their hearts in a way that even Eden's loss couldn't compare to. But that part of the story comes later. For now, there was just joy. The joy of a family. The beginning of the human race. Adam and Eve and baby Cain, surviving, growing, learning to live in a world that was beautiful but broken, hard but full of hope. Chapter 5. The sons. Hope and heartbreak. Years passed. Adam and Eve had another son. They named him Abel, which means breath or vapor, something temporary and precious. Looking back, the name seems almost prophetic, though they couldn't have known that when they chose it. Cain and Abel grew up outside of Eden, in a world their parents told them stories about, but they never experienced themselves. They heard about the perfect garden, about fruit that always tasted sweet, about animals that never feared humans. But to them, these stories were like fairy tales. They knew only the world of work, of sweat, of struggle. The brothers were different from the beginning. Cain was serious, determined, strong. He took to farming, following in his father's footsteps. He would work the fields from sunrise to sunset, breaking the stubborn ground, planting seeds, pulling weeds. He took pride in his work. The harvests he produced were proof of his worth, evidence of his effort. Abel was gentler, more thoughtful. He became a shepherd, keeping flocks of sheep and goats. He was good with animals, patient and kind. The sheep would follow him anywhere. He knew each one by name, could tell them apart by their markings, would spend hours watching over them to keep them safe from predators. Adam and Eve loved both their sons equally, but they worried about Cain. There was something in his eyes sometimes, a hardness that reminded them of themselves right after eating the forbidden fruit. A kind of anger at the world, a resentment that life was so difficult. Abel, on the other hand, seemed to have inherited something else, a gentleness, a trust, an ability to accept things as they were and find peace in them. The brothers brought offerings to God. This was something Adam had taught them. Even though they couldn't go back to Eden, even though they were separated from the direct presence of the Creator, they could still worship. They could still offer their best. Cain brought produce from his fields, grain and vegetables, the fruit of his hard labor. Abel brought lambs from his flock, the firstborn, the best he had. Something happened then that no one fully understands. God accepted Abel's offering, but not Cain's. The Bible doesn't say exactly why. Maybe it was about the heart behind the offering. Maybe it was about faith. Maybe it was about the blood of the lamb pointing forward to a future sacrifice. We don't know for certain. But Cain knew his offering was rejected. He could see it. He could feel it. And it enraged him. His face darkened. His hands clenched into fists. His brother's offering was accepted, and his wasn't. His brother was approved, and he wasn't. It wasn't fair. He had worked so hard. Why wasn't it enough? God spoke to Cain, warned him. Why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. This is one of the most chilling verses in the whole Bible. Sin is pictured as a predator, crouching, waiting for the right moment to pounce. And Cain was opening the door. But Cain didn't listen. The anger grew. The resentment festered, and one day, Cain said to Abel, "Let's go out to the field." Abel, trusting his older brother, went with him. No one else was there, just two brothers in an open field. Cain looked at Abel. All his anger, all his jealousy, all his hurt focused on this one person, his brother, his younger brother who seemed to do everything right without even trying. What happened next was the first murder in human history. Cain attacked Abel. Whether he used a rock or a stick or his bare hands, the story doesn't say. But he killed him. He took his brother's life. He watched the light fade from Abel's eyes. He watched the blood soak into the ground. And then, as the rage cleared, Cain realized what he had done. Abel was dead. His brother was dead. He had killed him. Cain's hands started shaking. He staggered backward. What had he done? What had he become? God's voice came again. "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain tried to lie. "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God knew. Of course God knew. "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." The curse came. The ground that had drunk Abel's blood would no longer yield crops for Cain. He would be a restless wanderer, never settling, never finding peace. And he would carry a mark, a sign, so that everyone who saw him would know what he had done. Cain cried out in despair, "My punishment is more than I can bear." But there was no taking it back, no undoing what was done. He had to live with it. Adam and Eve learned what happened. They buried their son Abel, the first grave in human history. Eve's wails of grief could be heard for miles. Adam dug the grave with tears streaming down his face. They had brought death into the world by their choice in Eden. Now death had taken their son. And Cain, their firstborn, their first joy, was a murderer. He was sent away, east of Eden, further from the garden, further from home. They would rarely see him again. Adam and Eve grieved for both sons. One dead, one as good as dead, both gone. Have you ever thought about how Adam and Eve must have felt? They knew death was their fault. They knew violence entered the world because of their choice. And now, they were living with the consequences in the most painful way possible. Do you think they blamed themselves? Do you think they ever forgave themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story is moving you, please hit the like button. It helps share these important stories with others. For years after Abel's death, Adam and Eve's home was filled with sorrow. They had other children eventually, sons and daughters. The Bible mentions Seth specifically, born when Adam was 130 years old. But those early years after losing both Cain and Abel were dark times. Adam threw himself into work, trying to outrun the pain. Eve would often be found by Abel's grave, talking to the mound of earth as if he could still hear her. But slowly, very slowly, healing came. Not complete healing. The scar remained, but life went on because it had to. Their other children needed them. The world had to be populated. The human story had to continue. Seth grew up knowing the story of his brothers. He knew about Cain's jealousy and Abel's death. It shaped him, made him thoughtful, made him careful about anger, about resentment, about letting negative emotions control him. Adam spent a lot of time with Seth, teaching him, training him, telling him not just the stories of Eden and the tragedy of his brothers, but deeper things, spiritual things, truths about God and humanity and sin and redemption. Seth listened carefully. He learned well, and he would pass these teachings down to his own children, starting a line of people who would remember, who would worship, who would keep the faith alive even in a broken world. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We still need to talk about Adam's long life and what he learned over those centuries. Chapter 6. 900 years of living. Imagine living for 930 years. Not in a future where medicine keeps you alive artificially, but in the ancient world, watching civilization begin from scratch. That was Adam's life. He saw so much, experienced so much, learned so much, changed so much. In his early years, the first few centuries, Adam was still relatively young and strong. He and Eve had many children. Some of their sons grew up to be farmers like Adam. Some became shepherds like Abel had been. Some became craftsmen, learning to work with wood and stone and eventually metal. Their daughters married their brothers. Yes, I know that sounds wrong by today's standards, but in the beginning, there was no one else to marry. The human gene pool was perfect, undamaged, so the problems we associate with close relative marriage didn't exist yet. It was the only way for humanity to multiply. Adam watched his children have children. Then he watched those children have children. He became a grandfather, then a great-grandfather, then a great-great-grandfather. The family tree grew and spread. Soon there were hundreds of descendants, then thousands. They began to spread out across the land. Some stayed near Adam and Eve's original home. Others ventured far away, to distant valleys and mountains and plains. They were fulfilling the original command: be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth. Cities began to form. Small at first, just clusters of families living close together for protection and community. But they grew. Cain, despite his curse, had built a city in his wandering and named it after his son, Enoch. Other descendants built other cities. Civilization was beginning. Adam watched the development of technology. His descendants figured out how to make better tools. They learned to work bronze, then iron. They domesticated more animals. They invented music, making harps and flutes. They created art, decorating their homes with paintings and carvings. It was amazing to watch. From two people alone outside Eden to a thriving human civilization. From scratch to cities in just a few centuries. But Adam also watched sin multiply. It wasn't just Cain's murder. That was the first, but not the last. As people spread out, as they grew in number, they also grew in wickedness. Violence became common. Lying, stealing, cruelty. All the dark sides of humanity began to show themselves. Adam would sometimes visit different settlements, this ancient man with eyes that had seen the beginning. People would gather to hear him speak. He would tell them about Eden, about perfection, about what was lost and why. He would warn them about sin, about the consequences of turning away from God. Some listened, many didn't. It broke his heart to see his descendants choosing the same path he had chosen, making the same mistakes, suffering the same consequences. Eve aged alongside him, though the Bible suggests she died before Adam did. One day, after centuries together, after building a life and a family, and watching the human race begin, Eve got sick. Her strong body finally weakened. She knew the end was coming. Adam sat beside her, holding her hand just like he had the day they first met. They were old now, their skin wrinkled, their hair white. but their love was still strong. "Do you remember Eden?" Eve asked weakly. "Every day," Adam said. "I remember every tree, every stream, every moment." "Do you think we'll ever go back?" she asked. Adam was quiet for a moment. "No," he finally said. "Not to the same Eden, but maybe someday, somehow, there will be a new Eden. God promised that the serpent would be defeated. Maybe when that happens, everything will be made right again." "I hope so," Eve whispered. "I hope our mistake won't last forever." "It won't," Adam said with certainty he didn't quite feel. "It can't. God is too good to let it end this way." Eve smiled. "I loved you," she said, using past tense because she knew she was leaving. "And I love you," Adam said, using present tense because his love wouldn't die with her. "I will always love you." Eve closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. The mother of all living was dead. Adam buried her and mourned. For weeks, he barely ate. He sat by her grave and talked to her, remembered their life together, the good and the bad, the joy and the sorrow. 900 years of companionship, and now he was alone. But life continued. His children and grandchildren needed him. He had wisdom to share, stories to tell, truths to preserve. The last few centuries of Adam's life were different. He was ancient now, the oldest person who had ever lived. His body was finally failing. He moved slowly. He couldn't see as well. He couldn't hear as well. But his mind was sharp. His memories were clear. And he had something important to do. He needed to pass on what he knew. Not just stories, not just history, but revelation, truth, secrets. That's when Seth became so important. Seth was righteous, faithful, trustworthy. Seth could be trusted with the deepest truths. So Adam called Seth to him and began to teach him things he had never told anyone else. And that brings us to the most mysterious part of Adam's story, the visions, the prophecies, the final revelation. Chapter 7. The Mountain Vision. In the twilight years of his life, when Adam knew his time was running short, something extraordinary happened. It wasn't in the comfort of his home or surrounded by family. It was on a mountain, alone, in an act of desperation and devotion. Adam had made a habit of climbing a particular mountain to pray. It wasn't easy for a man over 900 years old. His joints ached, his breathing was labored, but he felt drawn there, felt like he needed to be closer to the sky, closer to the place where heaven seemed to touch earth. One day, as he prayed on that mountain, something changed. The air grew thick, the light grew bright, and Adam, who had seen the glory of Eden, who had walked with God in the garden, saw something that took his breath away. The sky seemed to tear open, not violently, but like a curtain being pulled back. And through that opening, beings of light descended. Angels, 3 of them, majestic and terrible and beautiful all at once. Adam tried to bow, to prostrate himself, but one of the angels stopped him. "Stand, Adam," the angel said. "You are not here to worship us. You are here to witness." "Witness what?" Adam asked, his voice trembling. "The plan," the angel said. "The plan that was made before time began. The plan that your choice did not destroy, but rather set in motion." Another angel waved its hand, and Adam saw a vision. It was like dreaming while awake. He saw the whole span of human history laid out before him like a scroll unrolling. He saw his descendants multiplying. He saw nations forming. He saw kingdoms rising and falling. He saw wars and peace, famine and plenty. darkness and light. He saw the flood that would come in Noah's time, wiping the slate almost clean. He saw Abraham and the promise of a special nation. He saw Moses and the law. He saw kings and prophets. And then he saw something that made him fall to his knees despite the angel's instruction to stand. He saw a child being born in a humble place. He saw that child grow into a man. He saw that man teaching, healing, loving. He saw crowds following him. He saw miracles. And then he saw that man betrayed, arrested, beaten, condemned, and finally, crucified, hung on a wooden cross between heaven and earth, dying in agony. "Who is that?" Adam asked, tears streaming down his face. "Why are you showing me this?" "Look closer," the third angel said. Adam looked. He looked at the face of the crucified man, and with shock, he recognized something. It was the face he had seen in Eden, the face of the Creator, but now in human flesh, now suffering, now dying. "No," Adam whispered. "Why? Why would God become human? Why would God die?" "Because of you," the angel said, not cruelly, but simply stating fact. "Because of your choice. Because death entered the world through you, life must return through another. Because you brought sin, he brings redemption. Because you ate from the tree, he hangs on a tree." Adam watched as the man on the cross took his last breath, watched as his body was taken down and placed in a tomb, watched as darkness covered the land and the earth itself seemed to mourn. But then, 3 days later in the vision, the tomb opened. The dead man walked out, alive, transformed, victorious. Death had been defeated. The curse was broken. The way back to Eden, to paradise, to perfection, was open again. "This is the plan," the angel explained. "This is what was always going to happen. Your sin was terrible, yes, but God knew it would happen. And God already had the answer prepared. The seed of the woman that will crush the serpent's head. This is he. The one who will undo what you did. The one who will pay the price you could never pay." Adam couldn't speak. He couldn't process it all. God would become human and die to fix his mistake. The magnitude of it was overwhelming. The love required for such a plan was incomprehensible. "When?" Adam finally managed to ask. "When will this happen?" "Many generations from now," the angel said. "Your children's children's children, thousands of years in the future. But it will happen. This is not a possibility. This is a certainty. This is the promise." The vision faded. The angels began to ascend back through the tear in the sky. But before they disappeared completely, one of them turned back to Adam. "Tell the righteous ones," the angel said. "Tell those who seek God. Tell them that hope is coming. Tell them that their waiting is not in vain. Tell them that the price will be paid and paradise will be restored. Tell them, Adam, this is your final task." Then they were gone. The sky returned to normal. Adam was alone on the mountain, but he was changed. He had seen the end from the beginning. He had seen the answer to the problem he created. He had seen hope. He descended the mountain slowly. His body felt lighter somehow, despite his age. His heart, which had carried the weight of guilt for centuries, felt a new emotion. Not the absence of guilt, but the presence of something stronger. Grace, mercy, a love that could bridge even the gap between Eden and exile. This vision was never written in the main scriptures, but ancient traditions whisper about it. Old texts hint at it. The idea that Adam saw the Messiah, saw the cross, saw the resurrection, and understood at the end of his life what the whole story was about. If you're still with me on this journey, thank you. We're approaching the final chapters of Adam's life, and they're the most powerful. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button so you can continue exploring these ancient mysteries with me, and drop a comment letting me know what you think about Adam's vision. Do you think he really saw the future? Do you think he understood what it meant? Let's continue with what Adam did after coming down from the mountain. Chapter 8. Seth and the Secret. After the mountain vision, Adam knew he didn't have much time left. His body was failing rapidly. The climb had taken nearly everything out of him, but his mind was clear, clearer than it had been in years, sharp with purpose. He called for Seth, not his other children, though he loved them all. But Seth was special. Seth was righteous. Seth was the one who could be trusted with this revelation. Seth came quickly when he heard his father was asking for him. He found Adam in bed, looking frailer than ever, but with eyes that burned with an inner fire. "Sit, my son," Adam said, patting the bed beside him. "I have something to tell you, something I have never told anyone else." Seth sat, concerned. "Father, should you be resting?" "I'll rest soon enough," Adam said, "for eternity. But before I do, you need to hear this. You need to know what I saw." So Adam told him everything: the mountain, the angels, the vision of history, the child born in poverty, the man who would teach and heal and love, and most importantly, the crucifixion and resurrection. Seth listened in stunned silence. His father, the first man, had seen the last man, the one who would set everything right. It was almost too much to believe. Almost. "But why me?" Seth asked. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to write it down," Adam said. "Not all of it. Not everything. Some things are too holy to write, too sacred to put into words that might be misunderstood. But write down enough. Write down that there is hope. Write down that redemption is coming. Write down that God has not abandoned humanity." "Where should I write it?" Seth asked. "On what?" "Stone tablets," Adam said. "Something that will last. Hide them somewhere safe. Not for everyone to find, but for those who seek truth. For the prophets who will come. For the righteous line that will keep faith alive. Let them know that the promise is real." Seth agreed. Over the next few days, as Adam rested and dictated, Seth carved words into stone. Not a complete story, but fragments, hints, prophecies. Enough to give hope without giving away the full mystery. They wrote about the seed of the woman who would crush the serpent. They wrote about the tree that would bring life. They wrote about the blood that would pay the price. They wrote in symbols and riddles that only the seeking heart could understand. When they were done, Seth took the tablets and hid them deep in a cave, in a place known only to him. He marked the location carefully in his memory, intending to pass it down to his own children. That book, that collection of Adam's writings, became the stuff of legend. Some called it the Book of Adam. Some called it the Testament of Adam. Did it really exist? Was it really written? Or was it spiritual truth passed down orally, only later claimed to be written? We don't know for certain, but we know that something was preserved. Some knowledge was kept alive, because centuries later, prophets would speak of things they couldn't have known unless someone, somehow, had passed down the revelation from the very beginning. Adam's final days were spent in peace. He had completed his task. He had passed on the secret. Now he could rest. His children and grandchildren gathered around him. There were so many of them, hundreds of direct descendants still alive, thousands if you counted those further down the line. They came from near and far to see the first man one last time, to hear his final words, to receive his blessing. Adam blessed them each in turn, or at least as many as he could. He placed his ancient, weathered hands on their heads and spoke words of encouragement, of warning, of hope. He told them to remember Eden. He told them to seek God. He told them to wait for the promise. Some of them understood, many didn't, but all of them felt the weight of the moment. The first human being was dying. An era was ending. Whatever came next, it would be a world without Adam, and that was almost impossible to imagine. As the final night approached, Seth stayed by his father's bedside. Adam's breathing was shallow now. Each breath seemed like it might be his last. "Seth," Adam whispered, "come close." Seth leaned in, his ear near his father's lips. "I'm not afraid," Adam said. "I thought I would be, but I'm not. I know where I'm going, and I know that what was broken will be fixed. Maybe not in my lifetime, but in his, in the one I saw on the cross." "I believe you, Father," Seth said, tears running down his face. "Good," Adam said. "Keep believing. Pass it on. Don't let the truth die with me." "I won't," Seth promised. "I swear it." Adam smiled. It was a peaceful smile, the smile of a man who had carried a great burden and was finally allowed to set it down. "I'm ready," he said. "Tell your mother." He paused, forgetting for a moment that Eve was already gone. "No, never mind. I'll tell her myself soon." He closed his eyes. His chest rose and fell, slower and slower. The family gathered around, holding hands, weeping, but also feeling strange sense of rightness. This was how life went. Birth and death, beginning and ending. The cycle that Adam and Eve had set in motion when they brought mortality into the world. Chapter 9. The final days. The sun rose on what would be Adam's last full day of life. His body had held on longer than anyone expected, as if he was waiting for something or someone. His breath came in short, rattled gasps now. His eyes remained closed most of the time, but occasionally he would wake and speak, and his words were profound. "I see the garden," he said at one point, his eyes still closed. "I see the trees. They're calling me home." Seth wiped his father's brow with a cool cloth. "Rest, Father. Don't try to speak." But Adam couldn't rest. Not yet. There was still something unfinished, something gnawing at him. "The fruit," he suddenly said, his eyes flying open. "The forbidden fruit. Do you know what it really was?" Seth leaned closer. "What do you mean?" "It wasn't about the fruit," Adam said, his words coming faster now, urgent. "It was never about the fruit itself. The fruit was just a thing, just a test. It was about the choice. It was about trust. God asked for one thing, just one thing, and we couldn't give it. We trusted ourselves more than we trusted Him." He paused, breathing heavily. "That's what sin is, Seth. It's not just breaking rules. It's breaking trust. It's saying to God, 'I know better than you do.' And once you say that, once you make that choice, everything falls apart." Seth absorbed this, understanding dawning. This wasn't just a story about ancient history. This was about every human heart, every choice, every moment of deciding between self and God. "But the vision I saw," Adam continued, "the man on the cross, he was doing the opposite. He was saying, "Not my will, but yours." He was giving the trust that we refused to give. He was passing the test that we failed. That's why it works. That's why his death pays for our sin. Because he gave what we wouldn't give. This was the deepest truth Adam had discovered in all his 930 years. Not just that redemption was coming, but why it would work. The mechanics of grace, the logic of sacrifice. "Tell them," Adam said, gripping Seth's hand with surprising strength. "Tell everyone who will listen. The way back to Eden isn't through being good enough. It's through him. Through the one who will be good enough on our behalf." Seth nodded, tears blurring his vision. "I'll tell them, Father. I promise." Adam relaxed his grip. He had said what needed to be said. The burden was lifted. Throughout that final day, different family members came to say goodbye. Some told Adam stories about how he had impacted their lives. Others simply sat in silence, keeping vigil. Children who had only heard stories about their great-great-great-grandfather wanted to see him, to remember his face so they could tell their own children someday. One little girl, no more than 5 years old, managed to slip through the crowd and approach Adam's bedside. She looked at the ancient man with curious, fearless eyes. "Are you really the first person ever?" she asked. Adam opened his eyes and smiled at her. "I am," he said softly. "What was it like?" she asked. "Being first?" Adam thought about this. "It was lonely at first," he said. "But then it was wonderful. And then it was sad, but also beautiful. Being first means you make mistakes no one's made before. But it also means you see wonders no one's seen before." "Are you scared to die?" the little girl asked, with the blunt honesty only children have. "No," Adam said, and he meant it. "I'm curious. I want to know what comes next. And I think it might be even more wonderful than being first." The little girl smiled and ran off to play. Adam watched her go, and his smile lingered. That little girl carried his DNA. His blood flowed in her veins. In a way, he would live on through her, through all of them. Not just biologically, but spiritually. The truths he had learned, the wisdom he had gained, the hope he had been given, all of it would continue. As evening approached, Adam's condition worsened. His breathing became more labored. His consciousness faded in and out. Seth remained at his side constantly now, unwilling to leave even for a moment. "Seth," Adam suddenly said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm here, Father." "The tear," Adam said. "I'm crying." "Do you see it?" Seth looked. Yes, a single tear was rolling down his father's weathered cheek. Just one. "What is it?" Seth asked. "Why are you crying?" "Joy," Adam said. "I'm crying because I know it's true. The vision, the promise, the hope. It's all true. I can feel it in my spirit. Redemption is coming. The serpent will be crushed. Paradise will be restored. And we," he paused, "we will be forgiven." That tear, ancient texts say, was different from any other tear Adam had ever cried. It carried in it all the sorrow of Eden's loss and all the joy of Eden's return. It fell on the earth and disappeared, but some believe it left a mark, a spiritual seed that would grow through the generations until it blossomed in the promised one. The night deepened. Stars came out, brilliant in the unpolluted sky. The same stars Adam had watched on his first night with Eve, the same stars that had witnessed the entire human story from its beginning. Adam's breathing slowed. Each breath came further apart. The family gathered closer, forming a circle around the bed. Someone began to sing, a wordless melody that somehow expressed what words couldn't. Others joined in. It was the first funeral hymn in human history, sung before the death had even occurred, a song of sending off, of blessing, of hope. Adam heard the singing. Even as his body failed, his spirit was aware. He felt surrounded by love, not just the love of his family, but a greater love, a presence in the room, the same presence he had walked with in Eden, the same presence that had never truly left him, even in exile. "You came," Adam whispered, though no one else could hear. "You came to take me home." "I never left you, Adam," the presence responded. "Not in the garden, not in the exile, not for a moment. I've been with you always." "But the gate," Adam said. "The angels with flaming swords. The barrier." "That was to protect you," the presence said, "not to punish you. If you had eaten from the tree of life in your fallen state, you would have been trapped in brokenness forever. But now you're finished with this broken body. Now you can come home, not to the same Eden, but to something better, to the place I've prepared for those who love me, despite their failures, despite their sins." Adam's heart filled with overwhelming gratitude. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for the choice, for the pain I caused, for all the sin that came from my sin." "I know," the presence said, "and I forgive you. I forgave you the moment you ate the fruit, because I knew even then that I would pay the price to bring you back. That's what love does. That's what I do." Adam felt himself being lifted, not physically, but spiritually. His consciousness began to separate from his failing body. He could see the room below, see his family gathered around the bed, see Seth holding his lifeless hand. But he was above it now, moving toward the light, toward the presence, toward home. As he moved, he saw others. Eve, waiting for him with a smile. Abel, the son he had lost, no longer dead, but vibrantly alive. Others too, relatives who had died before him, all gathered to welcome him home. And beyond them, shimmering in the distance, a garden. Not Eden exactly, but similar. Paradise. The place prepared for the redeemed. The home he had been longing for since the day he was exiled. "Welcome home, Adam," the presence said. "Well done. Your journey is complete." And Adam, the first man, the one who had brought sin into the world, but who had also believed in the promise of redemption, entered into rest. Chapter 10. Adam's last words. Back in the room, Seth felt the exact moment his father's spirit departed. The body remained, but the essence, the personhood, the soul, was gone. Adam was dead. Seth closed his father's eyes gently. The ancient face, lined with centuries of living, looked peaceful now. More peaceful than it had in years. Whatever burden Adam had carried, he had finally set it down. The family wept. The sound of grief filled the room and spilled out into the night. The first man was dead. An era had ended. Humanity had lost its connection to the very beginning. No one alive would ever again be able to say, "I knew Adam. I spoke with the first man." But mixed with the grief was something else, a sense of completion, a rightness. Adam had lived a full life, the longest life in human history. He had seen and experienced and learned more than anyone ever would again. He had paid for his mistakes, carried his guilt, but also received hope and grace. His story was complete. They prepared his body for burial according to the customs that were just being established. There was no precedent for this. They had to create the rituals as they went. They washed his body and wrapped it in clean cloths. They prepared a burial site in a place of honor, on a hill overlooking the valley where Adam had spent most of his life. The entire community attended the funeral. Thousands of people, all descended from this one man. They came in a great procession, walking solemnly to the burial site. Some carried flowers, others carried stones to mark the grave. All carried memories. Seth gave the eulogy. He stood before the assembled masses and spoke about his father. He told the stories everyone knew, about Eden, about the choice, about the exile. But he also told new stories, things his father had taught him privately, wisdom about life, about God, about hope. And then, though the full vision remained secret, he hinted at it. He spoke of Adam's certainty that redemption was coming. He quoted his father's words about the seed of the woman who would crush the serpent. He assured everyone that death was not the end, that the story was not finished, that hope was real. The people listened with rapt attention. In their grief, these words were comfort. In their fear of mortality, these words were courage. They buried Adam with ceremony and respect, this man who had been literally made from the dust and was now returning to it. They placed a marker on his grave, a large stone with words carved into it. Adam, first man, beloved father, keeper of the promise. In the days following the funeral, life slowly returned to normal. People went back to their farms and their flocks. Children played again. Laughter returned to the community. Life went on, as it always does, even after loss. But Adam's influence didn't end with his death. The stories he told lived on. The wisdom he shared was passed down. The prophecy he received became a thread woven through human history, a hope that persisted through the darkest times. Seth kept the secret of the mountain vision, only sharing it with his own son when the time was right. That son shared it with his son. The knowledge passed down through a specific lineage, the righteous line, the ones who kept faith alive when others forgot. Centuries later, Enoch would be born into this line. Enoch, who walked with God so closely that he never died but was simply taken. Did Enoch know Adam's secret? Very likely. Later still, Noah would be born. Noah, who would save humanity from the flood. Did Noah carry Adam's hope in his heart as he built the ark? The texts suggest yes. The lineage continued. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David. Each one carrying forward something that started with Adam, a thread of faith and hope and promise that would not break. And eventually, in the fullness of time, the promise would be fulfilled. A child would be born in Bethlehem. He would grow up to teach and heal and love. He would be crucified on a cross, dying for the sin that entered through Adam. He would rise again, defeating death, opening the way back to paradise. And on that cross, according to some traditions, was the place where Adam was buried. Golgotha, the place of the skull. Tradition says Adam's skull was buried there, and when Jesus' blood dripped down into the earth, it fell on Adam's bones, symbolically cleansing the first sin at the place where the price was paid for all sin. Is that tradition true? We don't know for certain, but it's poetically perfect. The end meeting the beginning, the last Adam undoing what the first Adam did, the circle completing itself. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This story matters. Adam's story is our story. His choice affects us. His hope is our hope. His redemption is offered to us. Before we close, I want to encourage you to do 3 things. First, if you haven't subscribed, please do. There are so many more stories to explore together. Second, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear Adam's story. And third, leave a comment. Tell me what resonated with you, what surprised you, what you'll remember. Now, let's wrap up with some final thoughts. Chapter 11, The Last Breath and Beyond. Adam's death wasn't just the end of one man's life. It was a hinge point in human history. Before Adam died, there were people alive who had heard directly from him about Eden, about God, about the perfect beginning. After Adam died, all information about those things was second-hand, passed down, remembered, but not directly experienced. The world changed subtly after Adam's passing. There was a sense that an anchor to the past had been lifted. Humanity drifted further from the original truth. Yes, the righteous line kept the faith alive, but the general population began to forget. They made up their own stories. They created their own gods. They invented their own meanings. This drift eventually led to the flood in Noah's time. Humanity had corrupted itself so thoroughly that God decided to start over with one righteous family. But even then, Noah carried Adam's hope. In the ark, surrounded by animals just like Adam had been in Eden, Noah kept alive the memory and the promise. After the flood, humanity spread out again and filled the earth. Nations formed, languages divided at Babel, civilizations rose and fell. Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, Persia, Greece, Rome. Each had moments of glory and moments of darkness. Each contributed to the human story. But through it all, the promise remained. A golden thread running through history. Prophets arose who spoke of a coming Messiah. Kings hoped they might be the chosen one. Priests performed sacrifices, year after year, painting in blood the picture of what was to come. Isaiah wrote about a suffering servant who would be despised and rejected, who would bear our griefs and carry our sorrows. Micah prophesied that the ruler of Israel would be born in Bethlehem. Daniel saw visions of kingdoms and the Ancient of Days. Psalm after psalm spoke of a coming king who would reign forever. Were these prophets tapping into what Adam saw? Were they part of the chain of revelation that started on that mountain 900 years into human history? It's possible. It's even likely. The knowledge of what was coming was preserved, protected, passed down through the generations. And then, finally, in a small town, to a young virgin, an angel appeared. "You will give birth to a son," the angel said, "and he will be great. He will be called the Son of the Most High." The promise was about to be fulfilled. The seed of the woman was about to be born. The one who would crush the serpent's head was entering the world. Jesus was born in poverty, born in a stable because there was no room in the inn, laid in a feeding trough because there was no crib, announced to shepherds, the lowest class of society. Everything about his entry into the world spoke of humility, of God coming down to human level, of divinity clothing itself in flesh. He grew up in obscurity. 30 years passed before his ministry began. When it did, everything he did pointed back to Adam's story. He was tempted in the wilderness, but resisted. Passing the test, Adam failed. He touched lepers and they became clean, reversing the contamination of sin. He raised the dead. showing power over the death Adam introduced. He calmed storms, demonstrating authority over the chaotic world that resulted from the fall. And then came the final week, the week that changed everything. Jesus entered Jerusalem to cheers and palm branches. He overturned tables in the temple. He celebrated Passover with his disciples. He prayed in a garden, just like Adam had been in a garden. But this time choosing, "Your will, not mine." He was arrested, tried illegally, beaten, mocked, crowned with thorns, as if the very curse of the ground that grew thorns because of Adam was now piercing God's own head. And then the cross, that wooden cross, lifted up between heaven and earth. Jesus hung there for 6 hours. Hours of agony, hours of bearing the weight of sin. Not his sin, but ours. All of it. Every sin that came from Adam's first choice. Every sin that would ever be committed. All of it placed on him. "Father, forgive them," Jesus said. "They don't know what they're doing." Forgiveness. The thing Adam needed. The thing we all need. Offered freely from the cross. "It is finished," Jesus finally said. And he died. The earth shook. The temple curtain tore from top to bottom. The barrier between God and humanity, in place since Eden, was removed. The way back to the presence of God was open again. They buried Jesus in a tomb. A stone was rolled across the entrance. Guards were posted. It seemed like the end of the hope, the death of the promise. But 3 days later, as the sun rose on Sunday morning, something miraculous happened. The stone rolled away, not to let Jesus out, but to let witnesses in. The tomb was empty. Jesus was alive. Death, the last enemy, the consequence of Adam's sin, was defeated. For 40 days, Jesus appeared to his followers. He proved he was alive. He taught them. He prepared them. And then he ascended to heaven, returning to the Father, but promising to return again one day. And what happens when he returns? According to the Bible, everything Adam lost will be restored. There will be a new heaven and a new earth. The tree of life will grow again, this time with leaves for the healing of the nations. There will be no more death, no more pain, no more sorrow, no more tears. The curse will be completely removed. Paradise will be restored, not just for Adam, but for everyone who accepts the gift of redemption. Everyone who says yes to the promise. Everyone who believes that Jesus' death paid their price. Adam's story, then, is not a tragedy. It's an epic of fall and redemption. It's a love story between God and humanity. It's a promise made in Eden, kept in Jerusalem, and fulfilled at the end of time. Where is Adam now? If the promise is true, if Jesus really did pay the price, then Adam is in paradise. He's with the one who created him. He's restored to the fellowship he lost. He's waiting, along with all the redeemed, for that final day when heaven and earth unite and everything is made perfect again. And when that day comes, perhaps Adam will stand at the gate of the new Eden. Perhaps he'll welcome people in with tears of joy. Perhaps he'll say to each person, "I'm sorry for what I did, but look what he did. Look how he fixed it. Look at this gift we've been given." Because that's what the story is ultimately about. Not about Adam's failure, but about God's faithfulness. Not about human sin, but about divine grace. Not about the fall, but about the redemption. Adam's last breath, taken over 4,000 years ago, was not the end. It was a transition, a step from one life to another, from the broken world to the restored paradise, from the weight of guilt to the freedom of grace. and his story invites us to the same hope. We are all sons and daughters of Adam. We all carry the consequences of his choice in our mortal bodies. We all face the same death he faced, but we also have the same hope he discovered, the same promise he believed in, the same redemption he knew was coming. The question is, will we believe it too? Will we accept that the price has been paid? Will we say yes to the gift of grace? Will we walk through the open door back to paradise? Adam's story is our story, but it doesn't have to end in exile. It can end in restoration. It can end in home. It can end in the garden again, walking with God in the cool of the day, just as it was always meant to be. Thank you for taking this journey with me through Adam's life. From his first breath in Eden to his last breath in exile. From his greatest mistake to his final hope. If this story has moved you, please share it. Someone needs to hear it. Someone needs to know that there is hope, that mistakes can be redeemed, that the story isn't over yet. Subscribe for more deep dives into ancient stories. Like this video if it blessed you. Comment with your thoughts. And most of all, hold on to the hope. Hold on to the promise. Because if Adam's story teaches us anything, it's that God never gives up on his children. Never. May you find the peace that Adam found. May you receive the grace he discovered. And may you walk one day in the restored paradise that he glimpsed in his vision on that mountain so long ago. Rest well, friends. And may Adam's story give you beautiful dreams of what was, what is, and what is yet to come.